I'm Shane Hollis. This is the Touchback, and tonight, I'm in the biggest little city in the world, Reno, at one of the things I have found always interesting to do as someone who lives in Northern California, and that is watch Nevada football. It's not the best stadium, it's not the prettiest stadium, but honestly, I've always enjoyed it, even as an Idaho alum, and somewhere out there, Colin Kaepernick is still scoring on Idaho. Anyway, tonight, it's a pretty random matchup as Kansas is traveling to Reno to take on Nevada. I don't hold up much hope for the Wolfpack on this evening, but I think most importantly, all of you are likely wondering, what are Kansas fans like? And I can tell you, I can guarantee you, they aren't as bad as Auburn fans. That's a guarantee you can take to the bank. The thing about Mackay Stadium in Reno is that it finds itself in this weird space between temporary and permanent. You have some nice boxes, you have some other areas which really give the stadium a solid foundation. However, there's a lot of temporary aspects to it. Metal bleachers, the rinky-dink concessions area along the concourse, which is scream Little League. It is just this dichotomy of what could be a really good stadium and what is a not particularly great stadium, which is, I find, to be a bit disappointing given how absolutely beautiful the Nevada University campus is as a whole. It is without question one of the more underrated college campuses, both in the West and I would say the United States as a whole. You walk around, you look at the buildings, you just get this, it feels like a college that you would want to send your kid to, or that you would even wanted to have attended yourself back in the day. And that's something that, as a Northern California kid and as someone who, no disrespect to the UC system, no disrespect to the CSU system, there are a lot of great schools in both of those. But they just feel really small, even though the student body numbers are large, and even though they have a lot of programs. CSU East Bay or a Sac State or even a UC Davis doesn't necessarily feel as large as a Nevada in terms of the national conversation and just telling people where you go. If someone told me they went to Nevada, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. But if someone tells me they're going to like UC Merced, you're like, oh, Again, though, it's not about the one's right and one's wrong, but as a kid growing up in Northern California and one who didn't want to go to school in the state, Nevada has a lot of those traits that I think some of us, I wouldn't say all of us, but some of us are looking for in terms of that, bigger national presence than maybe we even realize. Of course, that is an entirely different discussion. Back to the campus of Nevada. So, what I tend to do when going to a UNR game is that I'll either park, down at the row at any of the casino hotels that have free parking, or you'll find some free, very limited street parking on the edge of campus. And that's where, just put the car up, and then I just enjoy walking through the campus. Not so much in August, like if there's like a week 0 game or a week 1 day game, I probably wouldn't. You won't love that walk because of the weather. But yeah, if there's an evening game or a night game, there's really quite nothing like just, strolling through the Nevada campus before you reach your way up to the athletic facilities, including Mackay Stadium. Once inside, though, that is where the beauty ends. It is a mediocre, at best, place to watch a football game. The biggest variable when it comes to going to a game at Nevada is the weather. Those early season evening games are really nice. You get some very fall-like or late summer weather, not too hot, not too cold. Although if you're sitting up in the bleachers for whatever reason, it is constantly windy. You will just be blasted with wind throughout the game. But it's even not that bad. I mean, on this night when Nevada took on Kansas, it was pretty windy, but it wasn't to the point where you were feeling chilly or cold. However, winter games are an entirely different story. So that Colorado State at Nevada game I went to last year, it wasn't bitterly cold, but you were always getting a wind chill. The game just was the worst game ever, and you just are sitting there. You're cold, but it's not super cold. And if the game is bad, it is not the funnest experience in the world.
The last time I was at Chris Field was one of the worst football games I had ever seen between Colorado State and Nevada. That game was terrible. This game, a lot better. But what I enjoy most about Mackey Stadium is that it's very walkable. You can just come around, do basically whatever the hell you want to do. I mean, seating isn't particularly well enforced, and yeah, like you can see, like I'm right down on the field for some reason. I don't even know why. But yeah, as a Northern Californian, we don't have a ton of college football, so this is one of the few experiences we get. And honestly, it's not the best atmosphere. It's not a memorable experience in any way, but you don't come to Reno for the college football. It just happens to be happening, and that's an added bonus. So, yeah, it's halftime. Nevada is somehow in this game, remarkably so. I don't really know how it is because it's not a good football team, and we will see how things go in the second half.
Let's talk fan bases. I have no qualms with the Nevada fan base, even despite the fact that I went to Idaho when both schools were in the WAC. I find Nevada fans to be pretty reasonable. When Nevada is good, the Wolfpack bandwagon does expand, and you do get a bit of a douchey fringe element in there, but by and large, I kind of like Nevada fans. They're pretty independent. They're going to go to the game. They're going to enjoy the game. They aren't, bitter or mean. They aren't a bad fan base. They really like the Nevada sports teams, and it's because, it's the only game in town, professional or collegiate. It's not like I wouldn't say Reno is a huge Kings town. You will find some connections to both the A's and Giants, as well as the 49ers, and nowadays the Raiders are a pretty big presence, but that's ironic given the fact that Oakland is closer to Reno than Las Vegas. But let's not get into that whole can of worms, shall we? That being said, it's not a flawless fan base. The student section is, yeah, they're there for a quarter or two, and they will start taking off to go enjoy their Saturday night or Friday night in Reno. The atmosphere at Wolfpack games is, even during the big games, it leaves something to be desired. It's not that fans don't care about their teams or they're disinterested in what's happening, but I think the way the stadium is configured and just sort of the openness of the entire facility, you don't get these raucous crowds these days. And part of that is also because, Nevada football has fallen on some hard times. Perhaps the biggest surprise, at least for me, was the Kansas fans who made the trip. For starters, I was surprised that more Rock Chalk Jayhawk supporters weren't at this game. Now, I come to find out a little later that Reno was just gouging the crap out of people for hotel rates on this weekend, assuming a ton of Kansas people were going to come to the game and were going to be booking hotels. That didn't happen. And I can't help but think a large part of that is because of just the absolute finagling and the gerrymandering of hotel prices on this weekend. Case in point, they were talk of hotels on the road charging $300, $400, $500 a night for rooms that these casinos will literally be giving away the following Monday. For whatever reason, my mom, who goes up to Reno a few times every year, has some sort of rewards, whatever, at Silver Legacy or El Dorado, and she literally can have free rooms basically during any day of the week throughout the year. And yet the hotels were thinking people in Kansas were going to be cool paying $350 a night to stay at the same hotel on the row. Let's just say that was probably not the brightest idea. And that also is probably why you didn't get a huge turnout of Kansas fans, although it also must be said, that commute, however you want to do it, getting from Kansas or Lawrence or Kansas City or whatever to Reno, it's not the easiest trek in the world either. Anyway, for the Kansas fans at this game against Nevada, honestly, I found them to be perfectly pleasant. They had their one sort of big area along the corner of one of the end zones, but you could find Jayhawks fans really throughout the stadium on this evening. They were nice, they were happy to talk, they weren't saying racist things like another certain fan base. They weren't, they weren't being dumb. That's the easiest way to put it. Sure, do people from Kansas want to talk about their basketball team? Absolutely. And I think There were plenty of Nevada fans who were happy to ask them questions about the Jayhawks, basketball wise. So I get that, even though it is a bit, I just find peculiar to be bragging about your basketball team at a football game. I do squint and see why you would do that, and I also understand, why Nevada fans would be potentially interested in hearing about it. And at the end of the contest, I don't think anyone was angry or upset with the result. It was a good game. The fans were on both sides were perfectly reasonable, perfectly accepted the result. And yeah, I don't have anything bad or negative to say about Kansas fans. They were again a fairly pleasant bunch to interact with. Now, if that would hold true for a Big 12 game, I'm not so sure about that, but hey, I wasn't at a Big 12 game, so it doesn't really matter. Finally, if you would like to know more of my thoughts about the experience of Mackay Stadium, not just of this game, but in general, you can check out the review I did on the touchback.com, and the link to that is in the description below.
That does it here from Reno. Nevada falls in a close game, and if I'm being honest, a pretty unmemorable game too. It was close, it was competitive, but I mean, it's one of those games you're not going to remember. So let's talk about Kansas fans. Kansas fans, perfectly acceptable. Like, damn, you do love to talk about your basketball team, but unlike certain other fan base I won't mention, you seem pretty tethered to reality, all things considered. So good for you, Kansas. Yeah, your fans aren't total ass. No, I mean, really though, yeah, I've got no beef with Kansas fans. I got no qualms. You were perfectly nice and cool. For this stadium and this experience, there are three things I have to point out. One, yeah, students are going to start leaving at halftime. Two, it's kind of a weird stadium. Like, it's just, you've got the track, you've got all these weird quirks. It's not impressive. And three, the dude playing the music hasn't heard any song beyond 2008. It is wild, the musical choices here. It's almost like traveling back in time. But you know what? I still love the experience. I still love coming here. I love watching games in Nevada because I think it's what makes college football cool. It's the fact that you can watch a big time event in a place like Reno. So yeah, at the end of the day, if your team is playing here or you're just a college football fan, definitely come check it out because it's one of those things that makes college football different from professional football or other professional sports in general. Anyway, that does it for me. I'm Shane Hollis. This is the Touchback, and thank you Kansas fans and thank you Nevada fans for not being massive douchebags like Auburn.